Hi, thank you. I'm just moderating, so we're going to start by everyone introducing themselves. So, Daniela.
Hi, I'm Daniela Cecilio, and I'm the CEO and founder of ASAP 54. ASAP 54 is an application that enables you to search for fashion by using an image, and it also has a social network.
Hi everyone, my name is José Neves. I'm the founder and CEO of Farfetch.com, which is a destination where you can find and shop boutiques all over Europe and the US.
Hello, I'm Jo Elvin. I'm the editor-in-chief of Glamour magazine, and that incorporates, obviously, glamour.com.
Great, thank you. So I think one of the key themes, obviously, for today is fashion discovery and how do people discover fashion. Jo, you, I guess, Glamour, I'm not, I guess, in your target demographic probably, but so I probably don't read it as much as I should. No?
That's hugely disappointing.
Right, yeah.
I'll have to get you a subscription.
Okay, I'll take I'll take one. But clearly, fashion discovery, and you guys are a very influential voice in the fashion industry. And how do you think about how people discover fashion through your magazine and through your website, and then go on to buy?
Yes. Unsurprisingly, we do an enormous amount of research on this. As a company, my company Condé Nast incorporates Vogue, GQ, Glamour, and other titles. And we spend a lot of time working out exactly how they use our pages. And consistently, I mean, I've worked at Glamour for years now, and every single kind of survey that we've ever done, where we do these sort of like big national surveys once every 18 months, where we talk to about 5,000-10,000 readers at a time, be that Vogue, Glamour. And consistently, the number one influence on their fashion purchases remains word of mouth between them and their friends. And very, very close second to that remains print magazines. So that's really interesting for us. And I think it's because, fashion has become so big and so unwielding, like an ever-expanding universe of product and voices and information, that something like Glamour, a market-leading magazine, is where people just want that editing. They don't want to be told what to wear, but they want ideas, and they want somebody to put a frame of reference around it, and that's where magazines and their websites come in.
And I mean, how do you think about the websites and actual e-commerce websites and leading people into them? So, how much of that do you now do? Condé Nast once did a meta search, maybe it still does, for e-commerce sites. But do you push people a lot? Are you an affiliate for sites or?
Not really at the moment. I mean, I know we've got some investments in some, e-commerce sites and all those sorts of things. Hello, but I can't pretend to be privy to the upper echelons of strategy going forward for e-commerce, because at the end of the day we are a magazine company, and I think that for something like Glamour, again, that's really to me as a consumer, that's so important. I love shopping online. I think that anybody who knows me knows I'm a voracious online shopper, but I'm not sure if that's driving why people buy magazines. So I think that I don't know. I think it has to be at a point where it's completely seamless as an editor, for me to be interested in using the magazine that way.
Great, thank you. So Daniela, you've obviously just launched, and ASAP 54 just launched, and helping people discover fashion on mobile in a different way. So tell us about it.
Exactly, yes. We launched it on the 28th of February, and what ASAP does is enables you to take a picture of an item and help you to find something similar to shop online based on color and texture. And of course, we're not betting everything on technology, because as far as technology goes, it can fail sometimes. So we also have some human refinement to it. So the idea is, if the user is not happy with the results they get, so then you can speak to a personal styling, and the personal stylist will go beyond the technology and will search manually in your behalf and help you to find the item or something similar available for you to shop online. And then there's a social network where you can share with your friends your discovery, and then you can also follow and see what your friends are searching and discovering, and then you can shop everything that you see. For the first time, a social network that allows you to one-click shop from various websites and brands as well. We have at the moment over 150 websites, including Farfetch, Net-a-Porter, Topshop, and many others.
Great. Were there many websites who didn't want to work with you?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
So far, we've been able to sign all of them.
Yeah. And has the data, has it been what you expected? Has it changed? Has people's behavior in these early days been how you expected it, or any surprises?
I think the surprise was I thought people would use the technology to actually try to find item. So take a picture of an item itself and try to find the same item. But people are using the technology, taking picture of furniture and trying to find something that matches the color, taking pictures of painting and landscape and trying to find items that would match with that. So I think it became more playful than I would expect it to be.
Great. Jose, how are people discovering your website, and has it changed since you launched? I can't remember how many years ago since you launched, but have you seen any distinct behavioral changes in how people are discovering the site?
So we launched in 2008, and I'm a big believer that we live in an age that people will use the best tool for the best need or function. So, I'm a big believer that there is a big future for print. There's a big future for proper journalism with an authoritative, voice. As there is a room for user-generated content, sites like Pinterest, sites like Instagram, apps like ASAP. So I think the world will continue to be, and we see that with WhatsApp, the recent transaction. I mean, Facebook already has a messaging functionality, but they recognize, it's very public. Mark Zuckerberg came to public saying, actually 2 weeks before, very timely, saying that he saw the future as specific apps doing specific things rather than one big Facebook app doing everything. And I think it's the same thing, the way people get inspired and discover fashion. So they may not click, they may not see it in a magazine, go to the magazine's website and click through and buy it on Farfetch, but for sure the print experience is part of the way they get informed and the way they discover fashion. In terms of actual traffic, and not talking about free channels like people going direct or people going via our email database and all that. So in terms of paid channels, is very concentrated on search, so paid search basically, and also on affiliates. But affiliates that are serving a search need. So people are using these affiliates, companies like ShopStyle, Polyvore, List, which is a great company here based in London as well. They're using these websites, I think, because Google doesn't do a fantastic job in terms of fashion, and these companies do. They aggregate all the e-commerce websites. They have great filters, great e-commerce functionality. So we see a massive amount of traffic through these sites. Social media is still very, very small for us in terms of actual traffic. But again, it's important because it's part of the journey.
Yeah. It sounds like you're currently in a space where Google isn't dominating as much as other areas. Is that right? And is that, I guess, do you worry that either they'll wake up, or the other trend you sort of alluded to, but is mobile now obviously a much greater percentage of your search, and is your mobile experience already optimal, or is there more you need to do?
No, our mobile experience is not optimal yet. So we're working on a big project, which we will release in 2 weeks, like a completely full responsive, revamped mobile site. But it's mobile between smartphones and tablets is already 37% of traffic. So I really see that there is an absolute need for people to have apps or solutions that you can use on a smartphone to search for fashion, because there's nothing out there that is mind-blowing. So I think that there is a real need for a discovery and search e-commerce solution that you can use on your iPhone.
And then arguably, do the economics change in a sense that a lot of the traffic one has to buy in the web-based world from Google, but in mobile, might the traffic actually come cheaper because Google has less dominance?
We hope so.
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah.
Certainly hope so.
Yeah. Okay. Great, Joe. Just thinking. I mean, we've already sort of answered. You've already alluded to some of this question. Sort of, who are your customers and readers? You know, who influences their shopping decisions most? You said friends and family first. Friends. So friends first, I guess. You and celebrities later. But you know, when you look at that word of mouth between friends, would you like to be in that conversation more, or do you think you already are? Or
I think we already are, because I mean, Glamour isn't this static print title. It's a brand. You know, we're present on Pinterest. We're present. There's shopping is driving probably most of the traffic on the website. So, you know, sort of like click-through galleries, and which then people can click through to a website to buy this or that. And I think that there is that. What I love about places like Pinterest, and what excites me about the ASAP app, is the social element. And so I think that that's really important for our readers, and I think Twitter's a huge part of that as well, for, you know, sort of like people engaging not only with us but with each other and discussing brands and what they want to buy and what's cool to buy and all those sorts of things. Yeah.
I mean, just quickly on the role of, a related question on the role of the editor. So, I mean, there are people who argue, and sometimes myself, even though I'm on the board of The Guardian, that the editor's role is diminishing because our friends, I guess it was sort of in the first part of the question, our friends are the editors sometimes. I mean, I think of, for example, when I think, again, I'm not a great shopper, but I start thinking about news. When I want news curated for me, I want it from my friends and friends of friends. So LinkedIn becomes a better gateway for me sometimes for news than the editor of a national newspaper. So is there a corollary in this fashion world where, in fact, I may go to, I guess, Pinterest or somewhere where I just follow the boards of my friends rather than caring about what Glamour tells me?
No, because I think that it's always been the case that your first port of call is your friends. But your friends, while you really want their opinion, they don't have the overall trusted authority of a brand. And the example of Pinterest, I love Pinterest. I love sort of obsessing over, that's where I get a lot of style inspiration, but I can't really shop from Pinterest. I might see a look that I like, but then I'd have to go to a shopping website, a magazine, what have you, to find where I would actually get hold of the thing that I wanted to. And that's where a magazine comes in. Well, how do I do this? Is that actually right? My friend likes this, but you know, what do the fashion authorities say? So I don't think that I just think that they exist in a sort of cohesive ecosystem, really.
Well, I mean, it is interesting that, Pinterest, there's lots of people, when you invest, you think which company you want to invest in, the e-commerce, the Pinterest e-commerce for e-commerce, and then it is surprising that the Pinterest for e-commerce isn't really Pinterest yet, but the Pinterest for e-commerce, I guess, is a company called The Fancy, which, as I understand it, is every board pinned there, you can then go and buy. So that does, I think, answer some of that, although I don't think it's yet as big. I don't know what you guys see, and it's just
not yet, and they're very complex logistics challenges to make, you know, a completely open platform also shoppable.
Yeah.
Because, for example, sites like List, etc., or ASAP, they take feeds from retailers. So you are in a way limited to the content that it generates, but that's why it's shoppable. So I think having both, having complete, you know, unlimited, you can take any picture from the web and you can post on a Pinterest pod, and at the same time make that picture shoppable. That's a logistics nightmare, if at all possible. Because with fashion, it's perishable. After 3-4 months, it doesn't exist anymore. So how that's one problem with Pinterest. One of the reasons why it doesn't convert is by the time you find something on a board of someone, it's out of stock, and it's not automatically updated.
And it's still, even in that scenario, it's still not an authoritative edit. It's still, you know, I think it's kind of a myth that, you know, just because all this information's out there, that's all you need. Everybody still wants that guidance, and that's where everything from a magazine to an app like yours comes in, I think.
Yeah. So Danielle, so who is influencing your, it's early days for you, right? But who do you see?
I think it's very early days, but I think they get inspiration. I see So the users are taking pictures mainly from Instagram and Pinterest. So they upload images and they try to find matchable items to shop, from magazines as well, and then from the friends. So, and I think also what I've seen happening for this first week, it's they liking everyone's pictures that they're following, and then adding a lot into the wish list as well. So I think, again, you're right. Friends are your editors to a certain extent. But just to complete what Joe was saying, it was also with Pinterest and Instagram, and my idea came especially from Instagram because it's where I get most of my inspiration, but it's where I get very frustrated as well, because you see something and there is no action after that. And I know technology cannot solve this problem completely, but if you actually could see something and then find something similar that is available to shop on that season, that's our aim. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And you don't, is the idea as well that people will be taking pictures of random people in the street and then saying, this is, yeah.
Exactly, but that is the scenario I thought people would use the most, but it's not what's happening. I think, it's not it doesn't happen very often that you see someone you really like what they're wearing on the streets, or if you do, you feel ashamed of taking a picture.
Or in the audience here today? No,
yeah,
no one
I would take a picture of her top, for sure. But I think so far, people have been taking pictures from Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest, magazines, more than actually live shots.
Cool. Jose, influences for you?
The way I personally get influenced.
No, sorry, for the Farfetch customer.
For the Farfetch customer, I think it's a mix because to Joe's point, someone has to produce high quality, authoritative content. There's always going to be a role for that. It's a bit like us. Someone has, in terms of e-commerce, I always say someone has to buy the item, someone has to take the picture in a beautiful way, create a great description, handle the logistics, handle the payment. Someone has to do that. So, and then you have that's one layer, and then you have another layer, which is I suppose the social network layer that amalgamates all that and creates this complete random set of content that is different from user to user and that people like to follow. But that does not question the existence or the need for who creates the base content. So I think we just live in a world that people have many ways of getting inspired. So they get inspired via print, via Instagram, via ASAP, via bloggers going directly to websites, using us as a search tool and as a destination and inspiration. So it's a myriad of ways, and it depends on the moment in time where you are. The internet didn't kill TV, for example. Actually, TV is in very, very good shape. So many, a few years ago said, "Oh, TV is going to be dead," right? It's not the case, because in some cases you just want to be there in a mind-numbing exercise and be completely served, a stream of stuff without having to decide. So it's just people have more choices and they get informed in all sorts of ways.
I don't know anybody who says, I'm just not going to use that media anymore. You know what I mean? It's like,
exactly.
we all use everything.
Yeah. But just quickly, which is harder, just with all of you, with this mix of people sitting here, I sort of want to ask the sort of obvious question, which is, which is harder to do? Is it the e-commerce part or is it the magazine part? And which is more vulnerable to the other? So, the obvious, it was a brilliant move, if for nothing else, for Net-a-Porter to do a magazine, because everyone's in the industry is talking about it, right? Because a online player doing a magazine. So lastminute.com did a magazine actually about 10 years ago as well, but not as seriously, not with as much purpose as they are doing. So clearly, the idea where I guess everything is shoppable in Mr. Porter, in Porter magazine, right? I think is the idea. Yeah. So it's just so. Which is how do you see from each other's perspective? How do you see each other's businesses? Which is harder?
I just don't know how to answer that because I don't know how to do an e-commerce site. I think editing a magazine is quite easy. I've been doing it for 20 years, but
but I think it's two completely different métiers, and that's what's very difficult to reconcile.
Yeah,
It's
well, I
like,
get so, but we have people doing it, right? I think ASOS have a magazine
Yes.
too,
And,
right?
uh,
And
you
I
know-
guess the question is, would you launch them? Is Farfetch going to launch a magazine next week, or but is ASOS
no,
going to get there first?
we'll never launch a magazine. We
Never's
believe-
bold.
No, we could launch a print exercise, call it what you want, like that reflects our brand.
Now you're a politician. You're going to
But,
no,
you know,
could be a travel guide, for
But
example,
all-
or could be, but not a glossy magazine in the sense of going out there and trying
Is
to
this
get
just because Joe is
advertisers
sitting next to you? You're Joe.
Well, I was
no,
just
it's
going to
because-
say though, it's like all e-commerce sites need editorial skill. I mean, even before Net-a-Porter had a magazine, one of the things I like about them is not only is it good merchandise, every item you click on has loads of ideas on how to style it. And I quite often look at sites like that, not to shop, but to think, oh, I don't know what to do with my denim shirt today. How does Farfetch style the ones they've got? And so I think that you need people with that fashion skill. It's not just a retail site. So I think we've always both had transferable skills, I think.
I think for us, editorial, I always say our editorial is there to explain to people what our brand is all about. It's not there to sell. We don't expect big conversion rate from people reading it. If we do anything print, it will be for the same reason, for people to look at that and understand. Oh, this is what Farfetch is all about. I get it.
Yeah.
So to help people understand the DNA of the brand, because I think it's very, very difficult to reconcile both professions, which are very, very different. I mean, if companies out there crack that, great, hats off. It will be an amazing result.
I mean, I guess one other commonality between the two worlds sometimes is actually celebrity. So, I mean, both we've seen e-commerce companies like Stylist Pick years ago go with Cheryl Cole as an investor. We've seen several in the US, several celebrities launch their own fashion e-commerce brands. Do you think celebrity? We haven't mentioned celebrity much. It's interesting. Is it important? I don't know actually how celebrity applies to glamour, but I don't know, Daniela. Did you think about getting a celebrity spokesperson or?
Not yet, but I think it will be something. I hope that the celebrities will come to use the app for the social network in order to actually help the users to shop what they're wearing, their looks. And also I think that will be helpful to grow our social network and the engagement of the users. But we don't have a celebrity strategy yet. I'm trying to be a social network where people come and use, and celebrity will come and use as a normal user as well.
I mean, do you mind people's influence online? So take us away from celebrity and just say, look, we know these people have millions of followers on social media. We have to find a way to get to them, to bribe them, no, just to get to them.
I mean, what I've seen so far is some people creating profiles of celebrities. So Olivia Palermo fans just taking pictures of her looks and then trying to find similar looks already. I think probably our strategy will be with bloggers, because I think they are also the celebrities for fashion nowadays, so they have a huge influence, and we're trying to reach out to them to make sure that they use and test the app, and then they see if they can benefit from it as well, more than a celebrity. I think a celebrity will come later as soon as the social network is strong and they sense that they can get a big following there. They will come and use it.
Yeah. How about Jose? For you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, celebrity is such a sort of a myriad of things. Celebrity. I mean, we need celebrities to sell our magazine. If I don't have a celebrity on the cover, I won't sell as many, and I don't see that ever changing. I suppose I'm thinking about it. I think we've kind of gone past the point, really, where you can sort of like just latch onto a celebrity with millions of followers to be endorsed, because I think people are just really wise to it. People know when they're being sold to in that really non-organic way. But if you've got a celebrity who happens to wear your underground label sweatshirt and it suddenly becomes this big Instagram hit, then that can be a huge influence on driving purchase in that way. And then you've got people like Rihanna and Cara Delevingne, who on a much more organic level are just really driving the agenda of what is being produced in fashion at the moment. So I think that's where social media has made those people so much more accessible. They're sort of like putting themselves out there and becoming even more visible as famous people than perhaps 10 years ago. And it's things like that are driving what Saint Laurent and others are doing on the catwalk, which is where it all starts.
Yeah. I mean, just quickly looking at Goop, because I mean, you'll understand more what Goop is doing, Gwyneth Paltrow's website. So obviously they have done, I mean, there's an interesting blend of content meets commerce, and actually some capsule collections, right, that they've done with, I guess, the likes of Stella McCartney, right? You see, I'm into this fashion thing. You know, is that a trend? I mean, these more sort of capsule collections happening, and is that another trend coming?
I don't know if you think it's a trend. I mean, I think Goop is an interesting one because it lives by the power of Gwyneth's brand power. You can't just decide you're going to do a capsule collection. I think she just has a pixie dust that lots of websites would really love. I think that, you know, what you're buying into there is Gwyneth's world. Some people love it, some people hate it. But that's why those capsules are successful, because they've got her personal stamp on it. And for whatever reason, and I'm sure it is true, but like, you know, people buying into that really believe that that's genuinely what Gwyneth loves. And I think that's quite hard to just replicate. She's onto something magic there, I think.
Yeah, there haven't been many others, have there? Yeah. Kardashians, right? Or something.
Well, for a different market.
For a different market. But still, yeah. Jose, do you want to come in on this? Or
for us, we don't. We really try to stay away from focusing or trying to exploit, you know, celebrity endorsements and all that. It's very, very dangerous for a high-end, you know, fashion brand to be pigeonholed and associated with a celebrity, because celebrities, you know, they go up and down, and it's like brands, like fashion brands. Sometimes they're very trendy, you know, a few years later they're no longer trendy. So we try to focus on our story, which is the ability of shopping and discovering the most beautiful stores in the world. So our celebrities are our buyers that no one knows, so they're not celebrities really, but you know, they are our heroes, and so that's them that we try to promote and tell those stories of, you know, unknown people, but they're great tastemakers and great curators of fashion. So we go a more guerrilla marketing approach.
Yeah, but then I mean, just you're just drawing out a very parallel world between your two universes, because if those are your key people, then they're your editors, and your curators are your stars, which is, I guess, similar to in Joe's business.
Yeah. Sorry, I think they're just one of. They're another influence. Yes. Yeah.
And by the way, we have a couple of girls in New York that own a store called Kia Elizabeth, and they are celebrities of their own right, and they have an agent and everything. They have CAA as an agent. I just found out. So some are celebrities, actually.
Yeah, right, officially. Yeah. I mean, just going to the industry, you know, more generally, how are you seeing the fashion industry being changed by technology?
I think technology is enabling the consumer to actually find and search for whatever they want. I think it's integrating online and offline, because very often you are in the store and then you're searching to see if the item is available online as well. So you don't have to carry the bag if you go into a meeting. I think it's connecting people. It's using social media actually to get more inspiration. And it's also allowing to connect with magazines. So you buy a magazine, but you have the website and its extension, allows you to discover new brands. I think technology, especially mobile, in my opinion, is allowing people to have the power, empowering the user to actually have and to be able to find whatever they want, whenever they want. And it's very playful as well. You can do you know, on the streets, you can do it with your friend. I think it's more engaging than before. And then it's also, and it's the connection and the experience is seamless as well, because then you're seeing something. If Instagram was ever shoppable, but in my case, everything that you see one click away, you can shop, or you can add to your wish list, and you can just kind of play with different apps to do different things. So I think technology is enabling and then allowing you to have a power and then decide what you want to do anytime.
I mean, is it making fashion faster and cheaper?
I don't think it's making cheaper. I think it's making available, which is different. I don't think it makes cheaper only, but it does make available. So, okay, we based in London, but let's say someone in Brazil that wants something, wants to buy an English label that is not stocked in Brazil. they would never be able to find before, because the magazines would not feature that, or would feature, but there was no connection with shopping. So now they can go in a magazine, get the inspiration, and then find where the item is stocked. And then the website very often will be shipping to Brazil. So I think he's allowing people in a very global way to find and then shop whatever they want.
I mean, I know, Joe, are you finding the stories you're telling about fashion changing much over the...
Definitely. It was really so much happened. I've just come from all the collections, Paris Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week, and I think that it's the two things that stick out to me is I think it's making consumers much more impatient and much more rabid in their appetite for wanting a fast turnover with fashion. I don't know what that does to the cheapness or not, but when you think of something like the Moschino show with all the sort of like the parody of the McDonald's logos, and that was such an Instagram hit. I think it was certainly the most Instagrammed show of Milan. I think the Chanel supermarket in Paris might have superseded it in the couple of weeks later. But then I went into a boutique in Milan 2 days later, and it was there. It was all in the shops there, which I've never seen that before. And I think that's what just trying to satisfy that demand for the new is going to see much more of a frenzy of that sort of activity. I think that it does give us a lot to think about. It gives us opportunities with things like our tablet editions and our mobile editions to tell a different story than we would in a slower monthly title. And I think that there's still fantastic stories to tell in that, in terms of the way we edit and curate, but it's just a different mindset. And I think secondly, what was I going to say? I've gone completely blank. It's just, that's what I was going to say. The other thing about London Fashion Week, I think, was particularly good at this, so just lifting the veil for people. So fashion has become more and more demystified for the general public, when you can stand on Oxford Street and watch the Topshop show as it's happening, whereas before that used to be such a select crowd of people used to get to see those things. So the whole machinations of fashion and the whole knowledge of what's out there for consumers has changed immensely over the last even couple of years.
And even if you're watching a show now, people are not even actually paying attention. They're just Instagramming on the spot. So it's amazing, because even if you don't go to see a show, you actually can follow everyone in real time what they actually sing.
Well, ironically, we were saying in the office the other day that when you're sitting there and you're sort of like, busily Instagramming this show or that show, and you look around and everybody in the Grand Palais in Paris, 2,000 people are doing the same thing. We have to be careful that's going to get boring. Everyone's going to seen that. So I think that it actually forces all media to think, well, what's our point of view on this? And I think that's going to be the next sort of challenge, is how we all do deliver that news that everybody wants, but in an original way for our audience.
Jose, do you want to come in there, or should we move on?
I think it's this is only the start of a big revolution in terms of technology applied to fashion. I mean, if you look, only 7% of sales are actually online. Like 93% happen in physical stores. Yeah. So it's one of the lowest penetrations in terms of e-commerce. So if you look at computers or electric equipment, the penetration is much higher, or travel, etc. And I think it's completely transforming the way people discover fashion, the way people consume content, be it quality content, professionally produced or just user generated, but also the way people buy fashion. I mean, in the case of Farfetch, it allows, for example, that boutique in Milan to sell the Moschino collection, which we had. We were one of the few sites that had it online in the same day of the show, and we sold out. And we sold out to kids in Singapore and in Hong Kong, and they were buying from these boutiques. I mean, that would be, without technology, that would be completely impossible. So, and I think this is only the beginning. And as mobile now comes in as a big trend, how's that going to change the world of fashion again? And so it's I think it's very difficult to predict, but it's going to be very disruptive for sure.
And just in what I saw, pretty much the show, I had launched my app just a few days after that, and then people were actually inside McDonald's taking picture of the packaging, and then just applying to jumpers and bags, and you would find exactly the same, and it was amazing to see what was happening, and it was pretty much like just 2 days after we launched, and people actually went to McDonald's to do it.
And did it work? Did it find?
It did find it.
So that's a good case for McDonald's to prove that it was an infringement of their trademark.
But it's interesting because I mean, Moschino's a big brand, but there's lots of lovely stories coming out about emerging fashion talent and smaller designers actually finding new opportunities with technology. Natalie Hartley's our fashion director, and she's also a popular blogger, and she started wearing a young British designer called Marcus Almeida, blogging about it, was noticed by the retailers at Matches Fashion, and that's how he got his first retail deal. So I like stories like that. It is opening it up for people who want a career in fashion as well.
I mean, the other trend, I don't know, is it much of a trend? I mean, we're seeing lots of companies starting up in second-hand fashion, right? Renting their friends' clothes, or either renting clothes or buying clothes from their friends, or second-hand clothes. I mean, is this something that's going to change the industry a bit?
Yeah, I think that's a very good example. That's the kind of business model that wouldn't exist without the web. Yeah. I mean, you had charity shops and this kind of, but they're very limited, right? Because you need to find people in the neighborhood that like the same kind of things. It just doesn't work. And these consumer-to-consumer marketplaces, they're going to be huge. So there's a number of business models out there coming. Almost every week there's a new business model, and I think many of those are relevant, and they will stick.
As a consumer, I would say they're just giving me more shopping power, because I can sell my old stuff and then buy more. So that's how I use it.
Right.
I was just like, okay, my wardrobe is full. Let me just get rid of these, and then I can get new stuff in. So.
I mean, what about in-store technology? So, just quick. I mean, yesterday I saw one of those. The 3D wardrobe mirrors takes the 3D image of your body. You can see yourself in different clothes. Obviously, Burberry's and Prada have done some interesting things in store. But is anything really changing the experience much, or is it all gimmicks? Or
I think that there's going to be a lot of experimentation in terms of how the physical retail space changes with new technology and all that. But it needs to be cool, needs to be sexy, needs to be seamless. And a lot of these solutions, they're a bit the user story is a bit too complicated, and people kind of, it's a bit like, some wearables that we see coming out and all that. How people will adapt to that, because fashion is, it's your second skin almost. So it's a bit. So, but if they manage to crack both, like really make people's lives easier, but in a sexy, seamless, cool way, I think that's going to be very powerful. So let's see. I mean, actually, I'm always interested in anything happening on that front, because we have 1,000 retail locations in our community. So that would be great, if we find these technologies, and then we can help, pollinize all these stores with that. So
isn't one of those technologies sitting next to you? Couldn't you put ASAP 54 to recognize everything showed on? Wouldn't you be a good gateway for that, discovery in store?
Probably, yeah.
No, I think also, I mean, in that case, what my technology can help as well, if you install and then they don't have your size, you can actually, ease up the art and on the side. And we can also, I mean, in the future, I would like to have offline partnerships as well, as opposed to only online. So the brands that don't sell online, we could just at least inform that is available in that store, in that location, and the user can just, go to the store. Because in the end of the day, I think information needs to be out there.
Yeah, great. Do you want to? I think. Shall we see if there's some questions from the floor?
My first point is just speaking about the Pinterest. You're speaking about Pinterest and not being updated. Something that Pinterest does have at the moment is called Rich Pins, which allows brands and companies to put their pins on it. It updates the price when the website actually updates the price as well. So those technologies are going to be happening and only going to get better. And from that, I have a multifaceted question, less for Daniela, but more for the other two. What platforms are you on, and how are you using them to better get people to your website, or what are your KPIs for those social media platforms?
So in terms of the reach pins, etc., if you're a user, you don't really care. So you're just pinning pictures that you find around. So and that's the major use of Pinterest is following other people that are not necessarily brands. So, but you're right. They're trying to tackle the problem, and it is possible. I mean, Fancy has done good work on that and trying to make those links shoppable. In terms of platforms, we're present on. We're active on Pinterest, Tumblr, Instagram, and Facebook. But to be honest, is not a big driver of traffic or sales. So conversion is very low, and the volume of traffic is also not very big. But we feel it's very important because it tells the story of your brand. So it's a bit like new PR. The old PR was only 2 magazines, trying to lure people like Joe to like us, and now it's that plus those new media, and that's very important. It keeps being very relevant.
Yeah, I'd probably have to echo that. I think with limited resources, and we're concentrating on our website as a driver of traffic, and our Facebook and our Twitter. We are present on Pinterest, but I don't feel yet like it's where glamour users are coming. If they want to go to Pinterest, they go to Pinterest. They're not necessarily looking for us particularly there at the moment. We have 2 million plus page impressions a day on our website, so that's where we're concentrating our energy, in honesty.
Great, thank you. I see a mic going there, and then Frederick there.
Hi. You've got a one-stop shop. You've got 150 suppliers. So are you providing free delivery, free returns? How are you managing the returns? Is it a cost to you or the supplier?
So I partner with them, but then the shopping experience doesn't happen on my side. So I redirect people to the websites. So I partner with them, and I have the catalog, but then I don't do the shopping experience. So you don't shop on my side. I will be redirecting you to Farfetch, Net-a-Porter, and they will all have different return policies and different shipping costs.
Frederick.
Yes, just one question on just how fashion is changing with digital. We talked about new retail brands like Farfetch, new publishing brands. I guess now ASAP is a form of publisher, or we have sites like Business of Fashion and these kind of things. But what about digital fashion brands, as in selling digital first, as opposed to starting to sell in a store and then going online later? Do you see the emergence of those brands which are digital first?
I mean, you have the spectacular case of ASOS, right? I mean, I think it was the first brand ever to be created completely online without.
Sorry, I meant designers going online first, as opposed to retailers. So, not having a wholesale physical strategy, but just going online and then possibly.
So you mean designers? Okay, so designers like original, higher end designers.
Exactly a brand, whether it's
like
the next Michael Kors or the next whoever.
I think
you see them starting online.
I think
to
it's what ASOS did, and to a point, Nasty Girl in the US, which is also purely online. There's Bonobos as well. So there's Warby Parker that started, purely online and now has an offline experience. I think it's a very difficult trick to pull, but it's very attractive, obviously, because obviously gross margins are fantastic and business model is fantastic, but to get that traction, it's very, very difficult. And I certainly think that for a new designer, an online presence is essential, but maybe they need a platform. Like Matches in the case of this new London-based designer, or other retailers who really support and take the risk and already have a community. And then once they have that traction, it's easier to build their online presence. So it's very difficult out of the blue without VCs like you guys. I mean, if they get some VC backing, maybe they can pull the trick.
But I think it's also, it probably depends on the market that designer wants. But if you want to be a luxury brand, a luxury designer, I think it's really interesting that in this brave new digital age, in places like China, Russia, etc., all the massive houses like Louis Vuitton are still opening these huge stores because they understand the importance of that whole 360 experience for their customers. So I'm not sure if you can yet garner that kind of cachet and that luxury without having the bricks and mortar and the tactility to, if that's a word, to do that.
And I'm a big believer of, I hate the word, but I love the concept, omni-channel. Because I don't think people will stop wanting to go to physical spaces. They will continue to want, in certain circumstances and for certain experiences, they will want to go into a beautiful physical space and interact with a human being. And I think the beauty is how do you leverage that with technology, and not so it's the two models really. It's the merge of online and offline that I really believe in. And there will be, and Warby Parker, for example, is a good example. They started purely online, and Bonobos as well. And now they found out that they need the physical experience. So they have now started to have also physical stores. There's another one called Sneaker Boy from Australia coming up with a very similar concept. So I think that's the future, is the blend of, the physical experience with the online tools, and then let the users decide. Depends on and I also don't believe there is an online shopper and an offline shopper. That doesn't exist. It's a virtual concept. We're all online, offline shoppers and consumers. So,
I mean, certainly. We have Made.com, which I chair, is obviously in the furniture industry, but certainly we're trying to do exactly what you suggest, which is we're trying to get vertically integrated, break new furniture designers with a very, very small retail offshore real world presence. So we have a showroom, but it's probably it's a tiny bit of the sales, and what it is really for trust. So it's one of the trust indicators for customers to say, yeah, they're real. Even though I think a lot of customers probably just look and think we have a showroom, they'll never even go there. It just gives them a trust. It's the same reason why we do a TV ad. It gives people some trust. So I think, yes, they both, but I think what's disruptive is people who can break through and have a different cost structure and a different model and save the customer a lot of money. And I think they can have a lower element of offline than they might do. But you're right, Joe, when you talk certainly about the brand cathedrals. I get the brand cathedral, which is the big Pradas and Burberrys, but I think it's what's in the middle that is more debatable. So we've got a question at the back there.
Hi there.
Sorry, last question.
Just like the echo of the last conversation, I thought it was really interesting that we're talking about the transition between the physical and digital world, especially for fashion tech. So I guess to bring it in context, we're launching a site called Scarlet of Soho, which is actually an amalgamation of Warby Parker in the States, and where we provide designer quality eyewear for £97. And in this case, just as you pointed out earlier, 93% of the market is offline. A big part of it buys in brick and mortar stores every day. So coming back to fashion and fashion tech in this instance, all of us here are very familiar with it. It's very hyped up. But what should the approach be in that manner, especially for an emerging startup in this case? Should we be focusing on purely the offline space right now? The online space right now, and then moving into the offline space later? Or should it be, as you pointed out earlier, an omni-channel straight from the beginning, from the get-go?
I think if you can have omni-channel from the get-go, I think you should do it. Like Sneaker Boy, created the boutiques. And actually it's very interesting. He says in an interview, I don't have people cannot actually buy from the store, which is a bit frustrating. Must be, right? I mean, if you're already in the store, if you tried it, I say, okay, why cannot I walk out of the store with it? And he says that he did it so the message is absolutely clear. That's what they do. It's like they're an omnichannel, and obviously to save space, storage space, and all that. But he could have some styles, but he doesn't have any. And it's a very clear message, very powerful message. If you start from day one, so it's your brand is known for being this omnichannel, entity, and I think that's more powerful than starting online and then eventually going offline. But obviously you need more resources. It's more difficult to execute, so it's a tough decision.
But it's a PR exercise on its own, because once you do both, and if you do both very well, and even if you concentrate on offline, just being a showroom, just where people go and see your styles, and then you don't even you have one person serving them and just helping out, or you can do by appointment only in the beginning to make your life easier. But I think it's good if you can crack both, because then you get the traction and the PR you get out of it. It's worth it.
I guess the other option, lower cost option, is pop-up shops, which is all the rage these days. So there's lots of different options to do with pop-up shops without taking the big risk. But that's it. Thank you to our great panel and audience.